I always thought my life with Clara was a steady rhythm, like the ticking of the old grandfather clock in our living room. We'd been married 12 years, built a home in the quiet suburbs of Portland, and raised 2 kids who were now old enough to bicker over breakfast cereal without my intervention. Clara was the kind of woman who turned heads, sharp cheekbones, hazel eyes that flickered like a forest fire, and a laugh that could melt ice. I was the dependable one, the architect who designed safe, predictable buildings while she ran a boutique bakery downtown. Our days were a dance of routine. Mornings with coffee and toast, evenings with Netflix and a glass of wine. It wasn't thrilling, but it was ours. That all changed the day I found the receipt. It was crumpled in the pocket of her navy coat, the one she wore when the autumn chill settled in. I wasn't snooping, honest to God. I was just looking for the car keys. But there it was, a charge for $128.47 from a place called Lunar Glow Spa. I didn't think much of it at first. Clara liked her little indulgences, massages, facials, the occasional girl's day out. But then I noticed the date, October 14th. That was the day she told me she was working late at the bakery, prepping for a big order. I'd picked up the kids from soccer practice and made spaghetti that night, no questions asked. The spa was an hour outside town, nowhere near her shop. I held the receipt between my fingers, feeling the paper crinkle like my trust beginning to fray. My mind spun excuses for her. She'd mixed up the dates, or maybe it was a gift for someone else. But the unease gnawed at me, a quiet whisper I couldn't shake. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I watched her move through our kitchen, humming as she stirred a pot of soup, her hair catching the light like spun copper. She looked so normal, so mine, but the receipt burned a hole in my thoughts. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I logged into her phone's location history while she showered. We shared accounts for practicality, tracking the kids mostly, but I'd never felt the need to check hers. There it was, October 14th. A pin dropped at Lunar Glow Spa from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. My stomach twisted. She'd lied. I sat there, staring at the screen, the sound of her singing drifting through the bathroom door. I didn't know what it meant yet, but I knew it wasn't nothing. Couldn't let it go. That little pin on the map haunted me, a glowing red flag in the fog of my routine. Clara went about her days oblivious, kissing me goodbye, texting me about grocery lists, laughing at the kids' antics. But I was unraveling. I needed answers, not guesses. So I started digging. I called Lunar Glow Spa, pretending to be a confused husband confirming a booking. The receptionist was chipper, too helpful. Oh yes, Mrs. Clara Hensley was here on the 14th. She booked the couple's retreat package. Massage, hot tub, dinner. Lovely evening, I'm sure. Couple's retreat. The words hit me like a brick to the chest. I mumbled a thank you and hung up, my hands shaking. Clara hadn't gone alone. I paced our living room, the kids at school, the house silent except for that damn clock ticking away. Who was she with? A friend? A coworker? My mind raced through names, faces, possibilities. Then I remembered her phone. She'd left it on the counter, charging, while she ran to the bakery for an emergency dough crisis. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the screen. This wasn't me. I wasn't the jealous type. But I unlocked it anyway. Her texts were a minefield. Most were innocent, chats with her sister, the kids' teachers, her employee Mia. But then I saw it. A thread with Mark, PT. Mark was her personal trainer. A guy she'd hired 6 months ago to get back in shape after a slow winter. I'd met him once. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a smile too polished for my liking. The messages were sparse but loaded. Can't wait for Tuesday, she'd written on October 12th. His reply, me neither. Same spot. No emojis, no fluff, just cold, deliberate intent. I scrolled further, my pulse hammering. They'd been meeting weekly, always on days she claimed to be working late or running errands. The spa wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. I felt sick, the kind of nausea that climbs up your throat and chokes you. Clara wasn't just stepping out. She was living a whole other life. I put the phone down, my hands clammy, and stared out the window at the gray October sky. The woman I'd built my world around was a stranger. I didn't confront her right away. Rage simmered beneath my skin, but I'm a planner. I design foundations, not chaos. I needed proof, something undeniable, before I let the storm loose. So I followed her. It was a Thursday, 2 weeks after I found the receipt. She said she was meeting a supplier after work, some excuse about new flower blends. I nodded, kissed her cheek, and watched her leave in her red hatchback. Then I got in my truck and tailed her, keeping 2 cars between us like some amateur detective. She didn't go to the bakery or any supplier. She drove straight to a motel off Highway 26, a cheap, neon-lit dump called the Starlight Inn. I parked across the street, my hands gripping the wheel as Mark's black Jeep pulled in beside her. They didn't even hesitate. She stepped out, her coat pulled tight against the wind, and he met her with a grin I could see from 50 yards away. They disappeared into room 12, the door clicking shut behind them. I sat there for 2 hours, the engine off, the cold seeping into my bones. My mind painted pictures I couldn't unsee. Her hands on him, his voice in her ear, the intimacy I thought was ours alone. When they emerged, she looked flushed, her hair mussed, and he had that smug swagger I wanted to wipe off his face. They parted with a quick embrace, and she drove off. I didn't follow her home. I couldn't face her yet. Instead, I went to the motel clerk. $50 got me the rundown. Room 12 was their regular spot, booked under Mark's name every Thursday for the past 4 months. The clerk smirked, like I was just another sucker in a long line. I walked back to my truck, the weight of it all crushing me. Clara wasn't just betraying me. She was methodical about it, a scheduler of deceit. That's when the revenge took root, a dark seed sprouting in my chest. I spent the next week planning. Confronting her wasn't enough. I wanted her to feel the wreckage she'd caused, to taste the bitterness I was choking on. But it had to be precise, calculated, a design as flawless as any blueprint I'd ever drafted. Mark was part of it too. He wasn't innocent, strutting into my life like he owned it. I dug deeper, using every tool I had. I searched his X profile at MarkFitPDX and found a goldmine. Posts about living your best life. Gym selfies, cryptic captions like, "Sometimes you just take what's yours." The arrogance dripped off the screen. I cross-checked his posts with Clara's excuses. Every late night at the bakery matched a time he was unwinding or chasing vibes. One photo showed a wine glass on a motel nightstand, Starlight Inn's chipped wood unmistakable. I saved it all, building my case. Then I went further. I called the spa again, this time asking about their regulars. The same chipper receptionist confirmed Mark and Clara had been there 5 times since August, always the couple's package. I thanked her and hung up, my jaw tight. At home, I played the part, doting husband, tired dad. Clara noticed nothing, her lies as smooth as ever. "Tough day," she'd say, kissing my forehead, her perfume masking the scent of him. I smiled back, plotting. My revenge wasn't about shouting or smashing things. It was about exposure, humiliation on a scale they'd never recover from. I started with their routines. Mark's gym was a sleek, upscale place downtown. Clara's bakery had a loyal following, her artisan charm a local staple. Both thrived on reputation. That's where I'd hit them. I drafted a letter, anonymous, typed, no trace of me. It detailed their affair, dates, locations, receipts, screenshots. I made copies, dozens of them, and mapped out my targets, her customers, his clients, their friends, our neighbors. I'd mail them, scatter them, let the truth bleed out like ink on a page. But that was just the start. I wanted something crueler, something that lingered. The kids were my anchor, the only thing keeping me from tipping into madness. I'd pick them up from school, listen to their chatter about homework and soccer, and wonder how Clara could fracture this. Us, for a fling in a cheap motel. I didn't sleep much anymore. The bed a battlefield where her breathing mocked me. I'd lie there, eyes on the ceiling, refining my plan. The letters were ready, envelope stamped, but I needed more. I needed them to unravel publicly, irreversibly. I remembered a client dinner months back. Clara had come along, dazzling in a black dress, charming my boss, Richard, and his wife. Richard owned half the commercial real estate in Portland. His opinion carried weight. Mark bragged on X about training elite clients, and I'd bet money Richard was one. I called him, casual as could be, and mentioned I'd heard Mark was overbooked lately, maybe cutting corners. Richard laughed, said he'd look into it. Step 1, plant doubt. Next, Clara's Bakery. She'd won a local award last year, Best Small Business, framed on her shop wall. I contacted the award committee anonymously, suggesting they audit her books, hinting at discrepancies tied to personal expenses. I'd seen her funnel cash into those spa trips. The paper trail was there if they looked. Step 2, undermine her pride. Then the centerpiece. I rented a billboard on the highway near her shop. Untraceable, paid in cash through a shell company I'd set up for a project years ago. The design was simple. A photo of them leaving the motel, snapped that night in my truck, with text, Clara Hensley and Mark Thompson partners in More Than Business. No names tied to me, just their faces blown up for the world to see. It'd go up in a week, timed with the letters hitting mailboxes. I sat in my office, staring at the mock-up, a cold satisfaction settling in. This wasn't just revenge, it was annihilation. They'd built their lies on my trust. I'd build their ruin on their vanity. Clara came home that night, smiling, oblivious. I smiled back, my blueprint complete. The waiting was the hardest part. I'd set the gears in motion. Letters sealed, billboard booked, seeds of doubt planted. But time stretched like a taut wire, humming with tension. Clara moved through our house like nothing had changed. Her voice bright as she asked the kids about their day, or offered me a slice of her latest pastry experiment. I'd nod, chew, compliment the glaze, all while picturing her tangled up with Mark in that grimy motel room. My smiles were masks, my patience a ticking bomb. I kept busy, refining the edges of my plan. I'd tracked Mark's ex-posts again, noticing a pattern. He'd vanish from social media every Thursday, only to resurface Friday with some vague, recharged caption. Thursdays were their sacred day, a ritual I'd soon dismantle. I drove by the Starlight Inn again, not to watch this time, but to scope the layout. The clerk recognized me, gave a lazy nod. I slipped him another 20 and asked about security cameras. Barely work, he grunted. Perfect. No footage to trace what I had in mind. At home, I started gathering relics of our life. Photos, her handwritten notes, small gifts she'd given me over the years. I didn't burn them. That was too dramatic, too final. Instead, I boxed them, labeled them Clara's past, and stashed them in the garage. It was symbolic, a quiet erasure. She'd notice eventually, but by then, it'd be too late. The kids asked why I was reorganizing. I said I was decluttering for a fresh start. They shrugged, oblivious to the storm brewing. Wednesday night, I barely slept. The billboard was going up at dawn, the letters hitting mailboxes by noon. I lay beside Clara, her warmth a cruel irony, and rehearsed the next steps in my head. She'd wake up to a world that knew her secret, a spotlight she couldn't dim. I wondered if she'd cry, scream, or deny it. I hoped for all three. Her unraveling would be my first taste of victory. The clock ticked past midnight, and I stared into the dark, counting down. Thursday morning broke gray and cold, the sky a fitting shroud. I left early, kissed Clara goodbye like always, and drove to a vantage point near the highway. The billboard loomed over the morning traffic, her face, his face, that damning photo in crisp, unforgiving color. Clara Hensley and Mark Thompson partners in More Than Business. Drivers slowed, craned necks, some snapped pictures. I watched from my truck, a bitter smile tugging at my lips. Step 1, complete. I headed to a diner across town, a place she'd never find me, and waited. My phone buzzed. First the kids' school, then a coworker, then silence. I'd turned off her number's notifications. I didn't want her voice yet. By noon, the letters would have landed. I imagined the neighbors whispering, her customers clutching those typed pages, Mark's clients exchanging glances at the gym. Richard had texted me earlier. Mark's out. Sloppy work. Thanks for the heads up. Step 2, ticking along. Clara called at 1:17 p.m. I let it ring out, then listened to the voicemail. Her voice trembled, high-pitched, frantic. What's happening? People are staring at me. There's a sign, letters, "Oh God, please call me back." I deleted it. She'd figure out soon enough I wasn't her savior this time. I sipped my coffee, picturing her at the bakery, her charm crumbling as regulars asked questions she couldn't answer. The award committee would have gotten my tip by now too. Her books would be under a microscope. Step 3, tightening the noose. I drove home late, the house quiet. The kids were at a friend's, a last-minute sleepover I'd arranged. Clara sat at the kitchen table, eyes red, hands clutching a crumpled letter. She looked up, pale, broken. "Why?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I poured a glass of water, sat across from her, and let the silence stretch. This wasn't about explanations yet. This was about her feeling the weight. Clara's tears didn't soften me. She tried everything: sobs, apologies, excuses about needing space and losing herself in our marriage. I listened, stone-faced, as she painted Mark as a mistake, a fleeting comfort. "It's over," she swore, reaching for my hand. I pulled back, my voice low. "You don't get to decide that now." She flinched, like I'd struck her, but I felt nothing. The man who'd loved her was buried under 12 years of lies. I left her there, drove to the Starlight Inn. Mark's Jeep was parked outside room 12, right on schedule. I'd brought a crowbar, not for violence, but for precision. I waited until the lights dimmed, their silhouettes fading behind the curtain. Then I went to work. The Jeep's tires hissed as I punctured them, slow and deliberate, the crowbar sinking into rubber like it was flesh. I scratched a single word into the paint: liar. Deep enough to scar the metal. Petty, maybe, but it was a start. Back home, Clara was gone. Left a note saying she'd crashed at her sister's. Good. I needed the space to escalate. I logged into her bakery's X account. Still had the password from when I'd helped her set it up. I posted a photo, the motel shot from the billboard, with a caption: "Sorry, loyal customers. I've been busy elsewhere." Her followers, her pride, would see it before she could delete it. I locked her out, changed the password. Step 4, her kingdom in ashes. The next morning, my phone lit up with texts from mutual friends. Shocked, asking if it was true. I didn't reply, let them stew. Mark's ex was silent, his polished persona cracking, no doubt. I checked the gym's reviews online. A few new ones mentioned unprofessional conduct, likely Richard's doing. I leaned back in my chair, the quiet house a canvas for my next move. This wasn't over, they'd barely begun to pay. Friday brought chaos I could feel from miles away. Clara's bakery was a ghost town. Her sister called me, furious, saying customers had canceled orders, the staff blindsided by the ex-post. "She's a wreck," she spat. "Fix this." I hung up. Fix it? She'd built this mess. I was just the architect of its collapse. I drove by the shop, saw the closed until further notice sign taped to the door. A small crowd lingered, whispering, pointing at the faded award in the window. I didn't stop. Mark's gym was next. I'd mailed letters to his top clients, printouts of his flirty texts with Clara, timestamps matching their sessions. I parked nearby, watched as a few familiar faces stormed out, gym bags slung over shoulders, faces tight with disgust. His reputation was his currency, and I was draining it dry. A new ex-post from him popped up, taking a break to refocus. Back stronger. Too late, buddy. Step 5, his empire wobbling. At home, I found Clara's car in the driveway. She'd come back. She was in the living room, pacing, hair wild, voice raw. "You're ruining me," she said, eyes blazing. "The kids can't know." I stepped closer, my tone ice. "You should have thought of that before room 12. She froze, realization sinking in. I knew everything. She sank onto the couch, defeated, but I wasn't done. I handed her a folder. Divorce papers drafted that week. "Sign," I said, "or it gets worse." She stared at the pages, hands trembling. "What's worse than this?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I walked out, drove to a bar, and let the whiskey burn away the last of my guilt. The kids were safe, oblivious for now. Clara and Mark? They were drowning, and I was just warming up. Saturday, I turned the screws tighter. Clara hadn't signed yet. She'd left the papers on the table, a silent plea for mercy. Mercy wasn't on offer. I'd found her old diary in the garage box, pages from early in our marriage when she'd gushed about me, our future. I scanned them, posted them on a Burner X account linked to her name. Remember when I loved him? Guess I forgot. Cruel, yes, but it mirrored her betrayal, intimate, public, raw. Her followers, those still watching, would see the contrast, her hypocrisy laid bare. Mark's turn came next. I dug into his past, found a lien on his Jeep from an unpaid loan. Public record, easy to exploit. I tipped off a local blog, PDX Gossip, with the details. Fitness guru can't keep his finances in shape, too busy with married clients? They ran it, paired with the billboard photo. His ex-mentions exploded, mockery, outrage, a few loyalists clinging to denial. I watched from my laptop, a second whiskey in hand, as his world frayed further. Clara showed up that night, banging on the door. I let her in, her face a mask of fury and fear. You're a monster, she hissed. I made a mistake. I cut her off. 4 months isn't a mistake. It's a choice. She lunged for the diary pages I'd left out, but I grabbed them first. Sign, I said again, nodding at the divorce papers. She didn't. She stormed out, vowing to fight me. Fine. I planned for that. I called a locksmith, changed the locks. The kids would stay with my brother until this blew over. I'd tell them Mom needed time away. Clara's life was a house of cards, and I was the wind. Mark's too. I leaned back, plotting the final act, a revenge so cold it'd linger long after the dust settled. Sunday morning felt like the calm before a reckoning. Clara hadn't returned, but her sister's voicemails piled up. Threats, pleas, accusations. I deleted them unread. The kids were safe with my brother, asking questions I dodged with vague promises of sorting things out. I sat in the empty house, the silence a canvas for my final strokes. The billboard still glowed on the highway. The letters had done their damage, and Mark's online presence was a ghost town. But I wasn't finished. Revenge isn't just destruction. It's a lesson carved deep. I turned to Clara's bakery again. She'd built it from scratch, her passion, her identity. I'd already torched its reputation, but I wanted the foundation gone. I contacted her landlord, a gruff guy named Tony I'd met at a holiday party. I played the wounded husband, voice steady but heavy. She's been using the place for personal stuff, meetings that weren't about flour. I've got proof if you need it. Tony didn't care about details, he cared about liability. I'll look into it, he grunted. I knew he'd find the motel receipts I'd slipped into an envelope, mailed anonymously. Step 6, her lease in jeopardy. Mark's gym was next. I chipped at his clients, but his pride was that sleek storefront. I found a health inspector's contact through an old project file, perks of being an architect with city ties. Another anonymous tip, unsanitary conditions, check the locker rooms. I'd seen the place. It wasn't spotless. A failed inspection would tank his credibility further. Step 7, his sanctuary defiled. Clara called that afternoon, her voice a wreck. The landlord's evicting me. Says I breached the lease. What did you do? I stayed silent. Let her stew. Sign the papers, I said finally. She hung up, sobbing. I poured a coffee, the bitterness matching my mood. The endgame was close, I could taste it. Monday, I escalated. Clara's bakery was shuttered. A for lease sign slapped on the door overnight. Tony worked fast. I drove by, saw her car parked crookedly out front. Her silhouette slumped against the wheel. She didn't see me. I didn't stop. Mark's gym had a notice taped up too. Health inspection scheduled for Wednesday. X buzzed with rumors his clients jumping ship. I'd turned their worlds into quicksand, and they were sinking fast. I went home, found the divorce papers still unsigned. Fine. I'd force her hand. I packed her clothes, her jewelry, every trace of her from our bedroom, and dumped the boxes on her sister's porch. A note taped to the top, "Sign, or I sell it all." Her sister called, screaming, but I blocked the number. Step 8, her roots severed. Then I hit Mark where it hurt most, his ego. I'd kept a photo from his ex, him flexing in a mirror, captioned "Unstoppable." I edited it, subtle, professional, adding a grainy shot of him leaving the motel with Clara, overlaid with "Unfaithful." I posted it from a burner account, tagged his gym, his sponsors. It spread like wildfire, his last defenders silent. Step 9, his image shattered. Clara showed up that night, banging on the new locks. "Let me in," she yelled. I opened the door, arms crossed. "Signed." She thrust the papers at me, ink smudged with tears. "You win," she spat. I took them, checked her signature, and nodded. "Leave." She did, her footsteps fading into the dark. I locked the door, the weight lifting slightly. One down, one to go. Tuesday, I focused on Mark. The health inspection was tomorrow, but I wanted him reeling now. I'd found his ex-girlfriend on Lindsay, a yoga instructor he'd dated 2 years back. Her posts hinted at a messy split. I messaged her from a throwaway account. "Mark's been sneaking around with a married woman. Thought you'd want to know." I attached the motel photo. She replied within an hour. "Not surprised. He's trash." By noon, she'd posted a rant, vague but scathing, tagging him. His ex-mentions erupted again, old wounds reopened. Step 10, his past unleashed. Clara's eviction hit the local news. A small blurb about financial troubles at the bakery. I watched her spiral from afar. Her sister's house now her prison. The divorce was filed, my lawyer moving fast. She'd get nothing. No house, no savings, just the wreckage she'd earned. I called my brother, told him to keep the kids another week. "Mom's sick," I lied. They'd learn the truth eventually, but not yet. Mark's gym reviews tanked, new ones citing creepy vibes and dirty floors. The inspection loomed, a death knell. I drove by, saw him outside, arguing with a client, his face haggard. Good. I'd stripped his swagger, left him a shell. But I had one more card, something personal, final. I'd found his address in a public record, a condo downtown. Time to pay a visit. I parked a block away, waited until dusk. His Jeep sat out front, tires still flat, liar etched in the paint. I slipped a package under his door. Photos of him and Clara, every motel meetup I documented with a note. "You took what's mine. Now everyone knows." Step 11, his shame delivered. Wednesday, the inspection hit. I didn't need to see it, X told the story. Posts from gym-goers. Places shut down. Mold in the showers. Mark's account went dark, his digital bravado snuffed out. I'd gutted his livelihood, his pride, his future. Lindsay's rant kept circulating. Old clients piling on with their own gripes. He was a pariah now, untouchable. I leaned back in my truck, parked near his condo, and watched him load boxes into the Jeep. Moving out, maybe. Step 12, his life uprooted. Clara's collapse was quieter but complete. Her sister texted me. "Unblocked just for this. She's leaving town. You broke her." I didn't reply. The bakery's lease was gone. Her award a memory. Her customers scattered. The divorce papers were processed. She'd signed away her stake in our life. I sold her car that morning, pocketed the cash. Step 13, her erased. I went home, the house mine alone now. The kids' rooms waited, untouched, a tether to normalcy. I unpacked the Clara's past box, spread the photos across the table. Our wedding, vacations, her smiling with frosting on her nose. I didn't cry. I stacked them, slid them into a drawer. The past was a blueprint I'd redesigned. Mark's package would haunt him, those photos a mirror he couldn't escape. I imagined him opening it, hands shaking, the note searing into his skull. Clara was gone, a ghost in someone else's story. I'd won, but victory tasted like ash. The cruelty had hollowed me too. One last move remained, something to seal it, to mark the end. Thursday, I finished it. I rented a small gallery space downtown, anonymous through a proxy. I printed the photos, Clara and Mark at the motel, the spa, every stolen moment. Blown up, framed, titled Unfaithful, a study in trust. I added the diary pages, her gushing words next to their betrayal, a twisted exhibit. I sent invites to their circles, her customers, his clients, our old friends, billing it as local art. No one would trace it to me. The proxy was airtight. The opening was that night. I didn't go. I sat in my truck, a block away, watching shadows file in. Whispers would spread, their disgrace immortalized. Clara was already gone. Fled to who knows where. Mark, I heard, had crashed with a cousin, his condo sold cheap. The gallery ran for a week, reviews calling it brutal and haunting. Step 14. Their legacy cemented. Friday, I brought the kids home. Mom's moved away, I said, voice steady. They nodded, too young to grasp it fully. We ordered pizza, watched a movie, rebuilt a corner of normal. The house felt lighter, the clocks ticking less oppressive. I'd torn down their world, brick by brick, and built mine anew. Saturday, I burned the last photo. A candid of Clara and me, laughing years ago. The flames curled the edges, her smile vanishing. Step 15, closure. I'd crafted a revenge so cold it froze them out of existence. They'd live, but not here, not like before. I was free, hollowed but standing, the architect of their ruin and my rebirth.